Hey everybody, welcome to the video. Let's go over the NASCAR All-Star race at Bristol Motor Speedway on Wednesday, July 15th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, you might as well hit that subscribe button. It's going to be all season long trying to help you guys become better NASCAR DFS players. And I cover other sports as well, and we are getting those other sports back very, very soon. I believe baseball is coming back in less than 10 days, so that's absolutely awesome. We get NBA at the end of the month as well, so going to be a fun time on the channel. Going to be posting content pretty much every single day, so a lot to look forward to. Going to be very busy, but I'm very excited. And if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, I'm at ChrisPennell16. You can follow me on IG at CPen16. And if you want to support my content over on Patreon, that's always much appreciated. We have over 300 members now, I think over 320. Absolutely awesome. I do appreciate everyone's support over on there. Put a lot of extra work into this every single week, so if you're interested, hit the link in the description below. If you're not, that's fine. Let's just get into the preview of this race. And by the way, I'm still not sure if I want to do a live stream for the All-Star race because it's just the All-Star race. But if you guys are interested, please let me know, because if you guys do want a live stream, I'll be more than happy to do so. Since most of you are probably working midday, I could maybe do it around 5 p.m. Eastern, maybe around there. So if you guys are interested, please let me know, and I'd be happy to do it because I do love doing the live streams, and they're always a fun time. But anyway, the preview of this track. It is the All-Star race at Bristol Motor Speedway, and it's a steep, short, unique track. There's no other track on the series that's close to Bristol. We have other short tracks like Martinsville, but that's a very flat track, and Bristol is very steep, so you really can't compare the two. And it's a half-mile in length, so it's very, very short. There's only 140 laps, which is about 70-75 miles, so this race is going to be very, very quick. Just for reference, the Sunday race at Texas is it is 500 miles, like 501 miles. So this is going to be a very, very short race, but it should be pretty intense because we have $1 million on the line. Now, I was getting quite a few questions on Twitter as if they're going to take this race serious because, you know, if you're talking about the Pro Bowl or the All-Star game at the NBA, they don't really take the game too serious. But for NASCAR, they will take it serious. There's $1 million on the line, and it's pretty much all the best cars here. So they're going to be wanting to win. It should be a pretty aggressive race, and it should be pretty fun to watch. I love Bristol. Personally, it's my favorite track, and we also have the underglow in the cars now, and it's going to be pretty fun. I think I'm really excited about it. And we have 105 Dominator points available. It's usually at Bristol we have 500 laps, which means Dominators are extremely important. This time around, not going to be as important. Only 105 Dominator points, so we'll talk about the strategy in a little bit. But the stages, we're going to have 4 this time. We have 55 laps, 35, 35, and then 15. And the last stage, it will not count caution laps. So this is a race that could get pretty chaotic. Again, guys, we have $1 million on the line, and there's no stage points. There's no playoff points here. The goal of this race is to win, and guys will do whatever they can to win the $1 million. So it could get pretty chaotic, and the strategy I'm going to tell you guys will make sense because there might be quite a few wrecks in this race, and since there's not a lot of Dominator points, and I really don't think there's going to be like a big main Dominator that comes out and leads 100 laps, because again, we only have 140, I think it might make sense to play a lot of the guys starting further back that can make their way up. I think place differential and finishing position is going to be a little bit more important this week than Dominators. Yes, you can take a stab at a couple of the guys starting up front and hope they lead a bunch of laps and finish high, because if they do, good chance they'll make the optimal. But I think the safest way to go is mainly focus on the guys starting further back, because a lot of the guys starting further back can move their way up. So I hope that makes sense, but we'll talk about it when we go driver by driver. So really, just in my opinion, the safe way to go is just play guys starting further back, because they should be able to move up, and there's not many Dominator points to go around, and there's 4 stages. I think there's going to be quite a few leaders in this race. And also, if you want to get, I don't know if I already said this, but if you want to get different, again, pick a guy starting up front that can lead laps and finish high. But anyway, I think that's it for the preview. Nothing too special. You also have that rule where they can choose which lane they want to start in, which is pretty neat. So that might be a little bit different, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think we can go driver by driver now. Actually, no, one more thing, and it's actually pretty important. So there's going to be 20 cars in this race, but as of right now, there's only 16 confirmed cars. And if you're wondering why that is, there's a NASCAR open race at 7 p.m., which is an hour and a half before lock, or the All-Star race. So 3 cars from that open race are going to make it in, and also the fan vote winner, which is going to be Bubba Wallace, more than likely, will also be in the race. So the 3 guys that advance from the open will be starting from 17th through 19th place, and the fan vote car will start 20th, if I remember correctly. So more than likely, Bubba Wallace will be starting 20th, and then the 3 stage guys, the 3 guys from the open will start from 17th or 19th place, making all these guys pretty decent place differential plays. And now we'll talk about the guys who I think are most likely to advance into the All-Star race. All right, so I usually have this go by salary, but since a lot of these guys aren't going to be racing and it's kind of mixed up, I don't want to just have a bunch of guys that aren't qualified yet. So I kind of just went through the qualifying order, and then I tagged the guys in yellow that I think are most likely to be racing in the All-Star race that are not yet confirmed, which I did put in the 20 for Bubba Wallace because I feel like he's pretty much a lock to make the All-Star race. So anyway, let's start on the pole. We have Martin Truex Jr. He's 8,300. He is starting on the pole, and I will say, this is not a track that Truex is very good at. If you're looking at his past 6 races here, it's not very pretty. He's got an average finish of 21.8, average running position of 15.9, 0 wins, 0 top 5s, 0 top 10s, 1 top 15, and only 2 top 20s. It's been a rough go of things for Martin Truex Jr. at Bristol. And if we expand this to the past 10 races, he has 1 top 10 and only 3 top 15s. Now, he has led laps here before, and he's actually averaging 28.8 fast laps per race, which actually isn't too bad. I believe that's actually the 3rd most out of all these drivers at the past 10 races, which actually isn't too bad. And the thing he's got going for him is that he's going to be on the pole for this race. Now, I did say in the preview that I'm more focused on place differential and finishing position in this race, but there is a good chance that Truex could lead the first 55 laps of this race because he's got Alex Bowman that's starting right outside of him on the front row, or on the inside of him, whatever he prefers. But he's going to be on the front row with him, and Alex Bowman's not been very good at Bristol either. He's actually been worse than Martin Truex. So, no, he just really hasn't led laps or anything. He does have a top 5 here, but overall it's not been a very good track for him. So I do think Truex could lead the first 55 laps, and if he leads the first 55 laps, picks up a bunch of fast laps, gets all those laps led, and if he can get at least a top 10, it's not going to kill you at 8,300. That should be actually pretty good. There's a decent chance he can make the optimal. So even though I did say place differential and finish position is going to be more important to me than picking up these guys starting in the front, Truex is in the best spot to lead the most laps in this race. So I do like Truex. Now, is he my most favorite play in the world? No, just because it hasn't been his best track, and I do think if there's a lot of cautions, he could get shuffled out of the lead early on. And plus, Ryan Blaney's starting 3rd, who, I mean, he's been amazing at Bristol, so he could overtake Truex early on as well. But I will have some interest in Truex just because he's in the best spot to dominate. And again, if he leads that first 55 laps and has a good finish, he'll be fine. So yes, he is on my radar. And if you're looking at the track type form that I have listed above, it's just the past 10 races at Bristol because there's really no other track that compares to Bristol besides Dover. But then again, it's still just a really unique track, so I didn't want to mix in the Dover statistics with Bristol. But if you want a minor comparison to Bristol, you could look at Dover. But again, I'm just using strictly Bristol stats. Then if we're looking at just the season stats, obviously Martin Truex Jr. has been an absolute monster for the most part. He was great at Kentucky on, that's the track history ranks. He was great at Kentucky on Sunday. I mean, almost won the race, but even from starting from the rear. But again, can't really compare that. But yeah, Truex is fine. He's on the pole. He's pretty cheap at 8,300. If he was like 10K plus, I'd probably shy away from that, to be honest, just because he's starting first. But at 8,300, the price is nice. I think you can take a couple of shots at Martin Truex Jr. Going down to Alex Bowman, he's 6,300. He's starting 2nd. If you want to get really contrarian, you could play Alex Bowman. He is super, super cheap. And if he happened to beat Truex on the jump at the beginning of the race and lead the first 55 laps, you're going to be looking pretty good because even if he finishes around like 10th place and he loses 8 spots, still at 6,300, if he could lead 55 laps, that would be pretty darn good. I don't think it's very likely. I do think Truex or Blaney leads the most laps early on. Even Harvick could make some noise. Because if we're looking at this top 10 here, we got Truex, he's got a good car. Bowman's got a good car. Blaney's got a good car. Then you got Harvick. After that, I don't think Haley would dominate. Matt Kenseth, I don't think would. Kurt Busch, Cole Custer. So really, I think the top dogs here are going to be Truex, Blaney, Harvick early on because I really don't trust Alex Bowman to get the lead. And plus, he won't have the preferred lane. So, yeah, speaking of Bowman, not really a big fan of him. If we look at his Bristol statistics, the past 6 races, they're not that pretty. He only has 5 races here, but average rank position of 18, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, which actually is a little bit better than Martin Truex in that category, but no lap slide, not very many fast laps. So I think Alex Bowman, the price is nice, and if you want to get contrarian, you could take a couple of stabs, but I'd expect him to be pretty low owned, even that at this low price tag, and I really don't have too much interest in Alex Bowman. Someone I really like up front is Ryan Blaney. He comes in at 8,000. He qualified 3rd, and this has been a very good track for him. Now, if you look at his average finish, it's going to look pretty rough because he has wrecked out of Bristol a couple of times now in first place. He was first place, I think, a couple of years ago, or it might have been last year. He was in first place, gets wrecked in lap traffic, And then this year, he was running in first place. I believe he was trying to get the lead back from, it might have been Brad Keselowski. They ended up getting wrecked, and he actually spun out. Then Ty Dillon slammed his front end. Ended his day, he finished 40th. He arguably had the best car in the field. He led a bunch of laps. And this is a very good track for him. He's got one of the best average running positions of 8.8. Actually, not one of the best, actually the best average running position of 8.8. 101.4 drive rating, which is second best. He has one top 5, 4 top 15s, a ton of laps led. Actually, the second most laps led in the field the past 6 races at 73.2. A lot of fast laps. I like Ryan Blaney a lot, and if you want to get contrarian and start some guys up front, because I do think these guys will be a little bit lower owned just because a lot of the good cars are starting in the back, like Jones, Hamlin, Johnson, Elliott, Logano. It's really stacked back there. I don't think a lot of people are going to want to play guys starting up front, and Ryan Blaney, he's one of those guys. He's got a ton of speed this season, arguably a top 3 car this year, and I mean, he balled out of Kentucky, which I know that means absolutely nothing here, but I mean, he was just running so well at Kentucky. And if you're looking at the first Bristol race, he was also really fast. Green flag speed won't really show exactly that he was like a top 3 car, but he actually did rank 4th in average green flag speed. I'm sorry, I thought he was a little bit lower down, but he was 4th in average green flag speed before he wrecked out. So he was looking like a good car. I honestly could have won that race if it kept going his way because he was just so fast. And I like him a lot. I know I always say I like Ryan Blaney because he's my favorite driver, but it's been working out this season, and there's a good chance he could get up front. He's been good here, so I do like Ryan Blaney starting in the top 5. Going down to Justin Haley, he's 5,200. If you're wondering why Justin Haley's here, and I'm sure a lot of you people are probably asking who is Justin Haley, well, he actually won a Daytona race here, not here, but he won a Daytona race in 2019 because it got rain shortened. He completely lucked into it, but hey, he still won the race, and now he's starting 4th. Now, I'm not going to be playing him. I know he's cheap, and he's actually going to be in Chip Ganassi equipment. They're kind of doing the Ross Chastain thing at the Coke 600, but still, he's going to lose spots. If Justin Haley gets a top 5, I would be absolutely shocked. I would expect him to more than likely finish last in this race, unless someone else wrecks out, and he doesn't wreck that time. So other than that, I think Justin Haley would finish probably last because there's just a lot of other good cars in this race, and I don't really see a reason to play Justin Haley. If he was starting in the back, maybe just because he's a cheap guy and you can fit in a bunch of studs, but starting 4th, he's most certain to lose spots here, and it doesn't really make too much sense for me to play Justin Haley. Going down to Kevin Harvick, he's 10,400. He is starting 5th, and we should have some interest in Kevin Harvick. He's one of those guys that are starting up front that I do think could make some noise early to dominate this race outside of Martin Truex Jr. Now, if you're looking at Harvick's numbers at Bristol, you got to remember he did finish pretty much dead last one of these races recently. And the past 6 races really haven't been incredible for him. He has 0 top 5s, which is a little concerning. Only 6 laps led per race. Now, he has a ton of fast laps, 38.7, which is actually second most in the field. But if we expand this to the past 10 races, his numbers get a lot better. He's averaging 66 Draftkings points per race, one of the best average finishes of 10.1. Has a win, 3 top 5s, 6 top 10s, the second most fast laps on the field at 44, averaging nearly 20 laps led per race. He's had the best car this season, arguably. I mean, Chase Elliott's been up there, Ryan Blaney, even Brad Keselowski, Truex in some races. But Kevin Harvick's overall had the best car all season, and he should make some noise. I believe he's the Vegas favorite to win this race. I would be very surprised if he doesn't finish inside the top 5. The only problem with him is he is pretty expensive, and there's not much place differential upside. So if he doesn't lead laps in this race, I'd have a hard time seeing him be the better play over guys like Kyle Busch, who's starting 10th at 9,100. You got Logano at 94, Chase Elliott at 10.7, and Hamlin at 10.1. Even Jimmie Johnson's at 8,800. And so I have a hard time seeing Kevin Harvick making the optimal unless he just gets up front and leads a lot of laps in this race. But that's not something I'm really banking on because the stages are short. There's a guaranteed 4 cautions, and I think we're going to probably get some wrecks out there. So that's even more caution. So I have a hard time seeing Kevin Harvick being an outstanding play. Has this been a good track for him the last 10 races? Sure. Has he been great this season? Yes, he is the Vegas favorite, but I just wish he was starting a little bit further back. So you can play Kevin Harvick as one of those guys to take a shot on that could lead laps early on, but outside of that, I think he's going to have a tough go to make the optimal. Going down to Matt Kenseth, he's 6,500. He is starting 6th. I don't really have much interest in Matt Kenseth here. Let's expand this to the last 6 races, hasn't gone the greatest. Now, there's obviously some incidents that happen at Bristol that can skew these numbers. He does have 2 top 5s, 25.5 laps led per race. But again, don't forget, guys, different circumstances. He's in a new car. He's in different equipment, but that's the same thing as a new car. He retired. He's starting 6th. I have a hard time seeing him finishing inside the top 5 here. There's just so many better drivers currently. You got Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick, Keselowski, Busch, Logano, Elliott, Hamlin. I just don't see how he's going to get in front of those guys. So personally not that interested in Matt Kenseth. He is pretty cheap. If you need to take a flyer on him and hope he finishes inside the top 5, you can. It's just he doesn't really pop out to me on this slate. Going down to Kurt Busch, he's starting 7th. He's 7,600. You can have some interest in Kurt Busch, in my opinion. I'm just going to keep this at the past 10 races. Just want to keep flipping back and forth because it's the same thing pretty much, just a bigger sample size. If you're looking at the past 10 races for Kurt Busch, they've been pretty good at Bristol. Average finish of 12.6, 4 top 5s, 1 win, 6 top 10s. It's actually been a really good track for him. Starting 7th, he's in that spot where he's not that exciting, but you can't just stack completely Hamlin, Elliott, Logano. You can't just completely stack those guys. So you're going to have to play some mid-range options. Now, Erik Jones, I expect him to be one of the highest owned drivers on the slate at 7,200, starting 16th. But if you want to get a little bit different, you could pivot to Kurt Busch, who could get a top 5 at a $7K price tag. It could work out. He honestly could win the race. He's not that exciting of a play, but this has been a good track for him, so you could look to Kurt Busch in tournaments. Erik Jones is the much safer play in that price range, but again, if you want to get a little bit different, you could go with Kurt Busch, who has performed pretty well at Bristol, and he's had a really good season so far. He's just been very consistent, and actually at the Bristol race was it May? I think that's when it was. He was in the 20s. Like I want to say it was like around 10, 15 laps left. I don't know what it was, but there's a bunch of cautions. He ended up getting a top 10 out of nowhere. No idea how he did it, but yeah, Kurt Busch, good track for him. I don't mind him. Trying to see what he was in average green flag speed at Bristol. Yeah, he was 22nd, but don't forget Ricky Stenhouse Jr. put a dent in his left side, so that made him slow all day. So you can't really use that as much of an indicator of what his speed was like. Going down to Cole Custer, he shocked the world on Sunday and won at Kentucky. Absolutely insane. Did he luck into it a bit? Yes, but he was in the right spot at the right time, and sometimes that's all it takes in NASCAR. Well, he's starting 8th. He's 5,800. If you're looking at his numbers here, he's had one race and he got wrecked. I believe it was by when Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wrecked. He was in with Tyler Reddick, Kurt Busch, and a couple of other drivers. So we can't use his numbers. He's got an average finish of 35th here. I mean, nothing we can do there. But I really don't have much interest in Cole Custer. He's in that weird spot where he's starting 8th. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to go all the way down to this price range. I'm hoping I don't. If I do, he's better option than Justin Haley. I will give you that. So if you want to punt, or if you're going to have to punt, you could go with Cole Custer, but again, he's not my most favorite play in the world. If we can get some of these guys like Almirola, MDB in the race, hopefully, those are some cheap options like 6,400 and 6,600, so maybe we won't have to completely dumpster dive since we don't have any 11K and 12K drivers. So I'm hoping we don't have to go as low as Cole Custer, but if we do, at least he's starting 8th compared to 4th. He's in better equipment, Stewart Haas equipment. He would be fine, but I'm really hoping I don't have to go this low. I've not tried to build lineups yet, so if we do have to go into that 5K range, I would prefer Custer over Justin Haley, but wouldn't be that excited about it. Going down to Brad Keselowski, he's 8,600. He is starting 9th, and he actually won the Bristol race in the spring. Now, he kind of lucked into it because Chase Elliott and Joey Logano both wrecked each other out of the lead, and then Brad Keselowski, again, was in the right spot at the right time. And again, sometimes it's all you need in NASCAR. He led nearly 100 laps in that race, and he was in the optimal lineup. He's starting 9th. I view him as more of a contrarian option because I don't think a lot of people are going to go there. I think a lot of people are going to play the Loganos, the Elliots, and probably the Jimmie Johnsons of the world because they're starting further back. So Keselowski, 8,600. I could see him going overlooked. I think people are going to play Kyle Busch as well at 9,100 because he performed very well at Bristol earlier in the year, and this is one of his best tracks. So I think Keselowski will go a little bit lower owned, but it's a good track for him. Team Penske as a whole does perform very well at Bristol, so we could look at Keselowski. He was 5th in average green flag speed at Bristol in May, so he had some speed. I know he started on the pole, so that gave him an advantage of the clean air, but he looked fine. He won the race, and he's been good all season, starting 9th. He doesn't offer you too much place differential upside, so I do think he's more of a contrarian option just because he could obviously win this race. Because Keselowski, he seems to take those gambles and tends to work out for him. We actually saw it at Kentucky when he stayed out for a while, then he came into the pits, caution came out at the right time, and he ended up being the leader. Worked out for him. He's the guy that likes to gamble, and that could certainly work out in the All-Star race here. We have 4 stages, so I can see Keselowski making some noise, and I do think he's a pretty good GPP option. Not sure if I'd go there in cash game just because he's not starting as far back as some of these other guys, but he's fine. Now, going down to Kyle Busch, he's 9,100. He's starting 10th. I've had a lot of people tell me they are officially done with Kyle Busch And I totally understand that. He started on the pole in Kentucky, one of his best tracks, and he led 9 laps and just got overtaken by Erik Jones, and then he was absolute trash for the rest of the day. I know he had an issue at one point, but still, I mean, there's really no excuses at this point. Kyle Busch has just not been that good. But the thing is, the track he actually performed very well at this year, which you can only say for one track, that was Bristol. He was first in average green flag speed, so he was the fastest car on the track. He led nearly 100 laps, and he did very well. I believe he was in the optimal lineup, if I remember correctly. So the one track Busch did well this year is Bristol, so I do think we should have some interest. I mean, that's an encouraging sign that we're at the track he actually performed well at so far this year, which we can only pretty much say for one track. It's the one track he dominated, did really well, and look, he is the class of the field at Bristol. If we're just looking at all the drivers here, he's averaging 71 DraftKings points per race. Average running position of 11.2, 3 wins recently, 106.6 drive rating, 5 top 5s, averaging the most laps led per race at 92.2, averaging almost 50 fast laps per race. I mean, Kyle Busch has been the best driver at Bristol. He's starting 10th. We're actually getting a good price tag on him at $9,100. I think he's a little bit lower than he should be. I was expecting him to be around $10K just because of how good he's at Bristol. And plus, he actually did well here earlier in the season, which we can't say for most other tracks. So Kyle Busch starting 10th. I do have quite a bit of interest here. It would not surprise me if he would win this race. Again, we have $1 million on the line, and Kyle Busch likes to win races. So I could see him doing well. It would not surprise me if he wins. If people are going to skip Kyle Busch in the lineup just because he's been awful all year, I totally understand that, but I would not mind playing Kyle Busch. If he's going to be contrarian, I'm all about that, to be honest, because Kyle Busch at Bristol, it worked out earlier in the season. I think he can work out again. He's pretty cheap. Starting 10th, you get that PD upside, and you have race-winning potential. And if he gets up front, leads laps, it can certainly work out. So I do like Kyle Busch, as scary as that is to say, but he will be making some of my lineups. Ryan Newman, he comes in at 6,900. He's starting 11th, and is he an exciting play? No, but he's actually below 7K, which I think is a pretty decent price tag, and this has been a pretty good track for him. Over the past 10 races, he's got an average finish of 12.4. No wins or any top 5s, but he does have 3 top 10s, 8 top 15s. And again, we just can't play all these 8K plus drivers, so yes, we might have to go down to the Cole Cussers of the world. I would expect him to lose some spots, but you could go with him. But Ryan Newman, I mean, he could make some top 10 noise. Would not surprise me. There's really not much to say about Ryan Newman, but if you have 6,900 left in your lineup, you could throw him in, hope you avoid some wrecks, and just contends for a top 10. That should get the job done. Going down to Joey Logano, he's 9,400. He's starting 12th. I would expect him to be one of the more popular plays on the entire slate. Bristol has been a very, very good track for Joey Logano, and Team Penske as a whole has ran really well here. He was in contention to in the race I think the race was back in May, but Chase Elliott kind of wrecked him out when they were getting aggressive. So Joey Logano should have won that race, for being honest. Ended up getting wrecked out, finished in the 20s, so that'll skew your average finish a little bit, but overall, I mean, it's just been a very, very good track for him. He's got one of the best average finishes out of all the active drivers here of 9.2, averaging nearly 60 DraftKings points per race, 4 top 5s, has a win, 53.4 laps led per race, which is second most, only behind Kyle Busch. A lot of fast laps. Joey Logano starting 12th. He's at a nice price tag. I think he's an excellent play. Would definitely be a staple of my lineups. Going down to Chase Elliott, the guy that those two both had incidents, could have won the race. Chase Elliott's also very good at Bristol. He's 9,700, starting 13th, starting right beside each other. They're both good PD options. I would expect these guys to be very high owned because they're also decently affordable. It's not like they're 10K plus, so I would expect them to be very high owned. But yeah, Chase Elliott at Bristol, I mean, one of the best average running positions, 10.5. No wins, but 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, a lot of laps led. He led a lot of laps last in the spring at Bristol. He was 11th in average green flag speed, but also getting wrecked at the end kind of killed that. But he did have one of the best cars all day long. So I do think Chase Elliott's a pretty good play. He's a little bit more expensive than Joey Logano, so I'm not sure if that'll lower his ownership just a little bit. But both are excellent plays. Chase Elliott's been awesome this season, and I would expect him to make noise to win this race. Now going down to Jimmie Johnson, he's 8,800. He's starting 14th. I think we can expect him to be pretty popular. I think all these guys starting 12th and back will be very popular. I mean, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Jimmie Johnson, Denny Hamlin, and Erik Jones, all pretty good at Bristol and all good PD plays. So I would expect them to be very high owned, but it's for good reason. So starting with Jimmie Johnson, he's starting 14th, and he actually had one of the best cars at Bristol in the spring race. He was second in average green flag speed, only behind Kyle Busch. So he had a very, very fast car. And this is a very good track for him. In the past 10 races here, he's got an average finish of 9th, which is one of the best in the entire field. I think it's tied best with Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell, which Christopher Bell only has one race sample size, so you can't really count that. So him and Denny Hamlin had the best average finishes the past 10 races here. If you're just looking at his numbers, he has a win, 4 top 5s, 6 top 10s, some laps led, some fast laps, averaging 6.8 place differential spots per race. I think he's fine. He's at a pretty decent price tag. We get him at a discount from Chase Elliott, Joey Logano. Now, do I think he's as likely to lead laps as Chase Elliott or Joey Logano? No, but Jimmie Johnson at his last year of racing, he's definitely going to win the All-Star race. We get him at a decent discount. So I think Jimmie Johnson's fine. Should have some pretty decent sized ownership on him, but this has been a very good track for him. Then going down to Denny Hamlin, he's 10,100. He is starting 15th. He is arguably the best play on the slate because this is a very, very good track for him. He had one of the best cars in the spring race. He was third in average green flag speed, only behind Jimmie Johnson and Kyle Busch. And he's starting the furthest back from all the big dogs. So, Elliott's in 13th, Logano's in 12th, Busch in 10th, Keselowski in 9th, and you got Truex, Blaney, and Harvick up front. So Hamlin offers us the most PD upside, and he has absolutely crushed Bristol. The past 10 races, he has 5 top 5s, average finish of 9th, which again is tied with the best with Jimmie Johnson. Average running position of 9.3, which I believe is second best, only behind Joey Logano. He's led a lot of laps here. He led a lot of laps in the spring race. So Denny Hamlin, he is definitely on my radar. He's arguably had one of the best cars all season. Him, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, they've been top dogs all season long. And I would expect Denny Hamlin to make some noise in this race. And we get a lot of PD upside. One of the safest plays on the entire slate. Then going down to Erik Jones, he's 7,200, starting 16th. It would not surprise me if Erik Jones is the most popular play on the slate because, again, we cannot play all these 9K plus drivers in the same lineup because the salary cap is a thing. So we are going to have to go down and dip into the mid-range and the low range a little bit. And Erik Jones, he is way too cheap at 7,200, starting 16th. He is, for all the drivers locked into the All-Star race, he is starting the furthest back. And he's also the the 6th cheapest driver, which doesn't really make too much sense to me because this is actually a really good track for him. He's got an average running position of 10.9, averaging nearly 50 DraftKings points per race. No wins, but 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s. He did lead a lot of laps here one race because he was starting up front, but still, it's been a very good track for him, and I would expect him to be very high owned. I mean, outside of a wreck, I have no reason to believe why he wouldn't contend for a top 10 here, and he should be fine. So Erik Jones, he's just the kind of guy you plug in and just hope he doesn't wreck, and he should work out very well for you. It's been a good track for him. You're going to need to dip into this price range. He's starting furthest back of all the confirmed drivers, so Erik Jones makes a ton of sense to me. And he will fit pretty nicely in your builds. Now the next guys, these are the guys I think are most likely to be in the All-Star race. So you got Bubba Wallace, he's 6,800. I have him starting 20th because the guy that's going to win the fan vote will start 20th. And he's had the lead for a while now. I don't see why Bubba Wallace will not win the fan vote. I believe Clint Bowyer's in second, but I do think Clint Bowyer can get in virtue of the open race. So Bubba Wallace, he should win the fan vote, and if he does, he's going to be starting dead last. He would be an interesting option. He wouldn't be my favorite play in the world. Bristol really hasn't been his greatest track in the world. He has 2 top 15s here. Average finish of 20th, average running position of 20.9. I don't really like him that much. He would be starting in the back, so I mean, he's not a bad play. It's just he would be my favorite play in the world, but you could certainly look his way. He'd be the safest option technically if he's starting 20th. Then going down to Clint Bowyer, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Erik Jones, and MDB. I think these are the most likely drivers to get into the All-Star race from the open race. I think Clint Bowyer is the most likely. He's 7,800. If he makes it in, he'll be starting anywhere from 17th to 19th, and I think that would make him one of the better plays on the entire slate. Bristol is one of Clint Bowyer's best tracks, and he's one of the best drivers at Bristol. Looking at the past 10 races at this track, Clint Bowyer is averaging nearly 52 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 9.5, which is one of the best in the entire field, running position of 13.7, 3 top 5s, 8 top 10s, finished second here in the spring race. Clint Bowyer would make a ton of sense to me, so as long as he makes the All-Star race, I would have a lot of interest in Clint Bowyer. I think he makes a lot of sense here. Then going down to Christopher Bell, he's 7,400. He only has one race here, but he did finish in 9th place. He would be fine. I'm not sure if he's going to make this race, but if he does, he'll be starting anywhere from 17th to 19th. He would be my radar. Can't really go too in-depth on Christopher Bell because he only has one race here, but he was pretty good here in the Xfinity Series. Performed pretty well at this type of track, so Bell would be on my radar. You'd also have William Byron. I think the top 3 in Vegas for favorites to move on to the All-Star race are Clint Bowyer, William Byron, and Aric Almirola, which I could definitely see that happening. But yeah, William Byron, Bristol has not really been a great track for him, so I wouldn't be like over the moon interested in him, but again, he'd be starting in the back, so you could sprinkle him in. Going down to Aric Almirola, he has been an absolute heater recently. Now, he did not finish in the top 5 on Sunday, but he led over 100 laps, absolutely crushed the slate. I think he finished with over 80 DraftKings points. He's just been on fire. He's finished in the top 5 out of the past 6 races, and then he absolutely crushed the last race at Kentucky. So you could look his way. He'd be starting in the back. Now, Bristol is not a very good track for him in the past 10 races here. He's got an average finish of 25.6, running position of 21.8. He has no top 5s, 1 top 10. Not been a very good track for him, so I wouldn't expect too much out of Almirola, but he has been running very well recently, and he will be starting in the back, so this would make him a pretty safe play. And the thing is, he would be 6,600, so he could offer us some salary relief that we would certainly be missing, because, again, I don't really want to play Cole Custer or Justin Haley from where they're starting, but we might be forced to if we don't get a decent cheap option. But Almirola would certainly be on my radar at 6,600. And you could also look at MDB. He's 6,400. He did have a really good race at Bristol. And again, he's in new equipment now, so we can't really use much of these statistics. But he's got an average finish inside the top 20. He has 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. Has led laps here before. He almost won here. Got passed by Denny Hamlin at the end. Finished second. But he'd be fine. He's 6,400. He'd be starting in the back. I think he'd be an interesting option. And if he does advance, I actually think he'd be pretty popular because he's in a really good car. I mean, if you're just looking at his numbers this season, he's got an average running position of 12.8, average finish of 13.1. He's got 10 top 15s, 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s. He would make some sense to me. So if he makes the All-Star race, I would have some interest. But those are pretty much it for the guys I think will make it. I don't think Suarez would have a chance. Reddick maybe. I mean, he's just been running so well recently. Or not recently, in the entire season. Dillon, maybe. Dillon's okay at Bristol. He does have 3 top 15s the past 6 races here, but I'm not really. I think the guys the most likely are going to be Clint Bowyer, Aric Almirola, MDB, Christopher Bell, and Aric Almirola. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. It was a lot shorter than usual, and it probably wasn't as in-depth or too in-depth in the analytics or statistics, whatever you want to call it, just because it's the All-Star race, guys. You know, it's not like a 1.5 mile track where we have all the statistics we can. This is just an All-Star race, so I'm kind of just looking at some Bristol statistics, how they ran earlier this season. And I will say, Aric Almirola was 6th in average green flag speed at Bristol in the spring race. So he did show a lot of speed. So he could be somewhat interesting if he makes it and he's at a good price point. But that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Again, if you guys want me to go live tomorrow, please let me know. I'd be happy to do so if people want me to. If not, that's fine. I get it's just the All-Star race. But yeah, we're going to have the Texas race this weekend. So we'll be doing the regular video for that and the live stream and all the good stuff. So if you haven't already, guys, remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to check me out on Patreon, feel free to do so. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on IG, all that good stuff. And it's going to be it for the video, guys. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.